All right, so that was fun, but when did the tournament really start?
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, the daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down quickly, shortly, and just for a little bit, Houston's big win over the SIUE Edwardsville Cougars of the OVC, 78-40 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Now, we're only going to be here for a little bit. Big time blowout game, not a whole lot to do on that one, all that kind of stuff. We also don't necessarily know who Houston's about to play. They play the winner of Georgia and Gonzaga. Today's show is brought to you by Upwork. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But on the whole, just a crisp, clean, dominant performance from the Cougs. And if you want to add something to the conversation down below, tell us what you thought as you watched that one go. Obviously, there was some rough stuff to clean up at the end with offense being slow or whatever with the reserve. On the whole, this is the kind of game that you see from teams that are going to make a run. They showed up clear, focused, opening jump, opening tip from the gate. I mean, it was like the only baskets that SIUE had for the first 8 minutes were all defensive over-aggression kind of things. Like Houston jumped to passing lane, gives a dunk backdoor, and even then it was only a couple times. The lead, I believe, got as big as 30. And I don't want to get this wrong here. Houston shot 36% from three by the end of the game, but their starters were a whole different story. The starting line for Houston from behind the arc, you had Uzan was 2 of 2, Cryer was 4 of 9, Sharp was 2 of 6, right? So, yes, you had the Mercy Miller 0 of 3, Mylik Wilson 0 of 2, Cordell was 1 of 3, and Terrance was 1 of 3. That kind of brought things down. But on the whole, that starting group, no one played more than 25 minutes. Everyone was very much on their P's and Q's. Terrance actually played the most minutes of anyone in the game because he gets rotational minutes with the first group and the second group, right? So that's, I think, a big part of that one. Interesting, though, to have that having to a guy that came off of the Achilles tear from last year, right? On the whole here, though, you've got, again, Cryer's 15 in the first half. They got him loose. Uzan looks smooth, just like he left the Big 12 championship game with a couple weeks ago. Just a week ago. It feels so long ago at this point. And this team looked like they're on a mission, right? Defensively, high hand double teams, collapsing on the ball in different corners of the floor, making sure SIUE did not get comfortable. I want to stress that, SIUE has multiple guys go for more than 10 a game. Rayshon Taylor's a great story in college basketball. He's getting 19 a game this season. Houston held him to 10. His cousin Brian Taylor's getting 12 a game. Houston held him to 10, right? Malith, their double-double type machine, had no points and just 2 rebounds. I mean, Houston really did a good job of reading the scouting report and being ready to go in this one. And I understand people might not be super enthusiastic about a 38-point win. Again, I was thinking when the starters left, it was around 30 or 35. 38-point win over SIUE might not be the thing people wanted to watch this afternoon. But I will stress, and I got this pulled out to make sure I'm correct here, that 5-seed Clemson is currently down at halftime 31-13. BYU is currently down in the first half to VCU. Alabama State is only 8 points behind Auburn in the second half. There are all kinds of times, part of the reason the March Madness is such madness, where these kinds of results feel like they should be obvious. And for whatever reason, a team shows up and they're not. So Houston showing up and getting the job done in this was really, really impressive and important. I thought that the offense in the first half was awesome in the way that it flowed. It was, we'll run a flare set to get Cryer. We'll then run a wheel set to get Jawan. We'll then find some way to get Milos off the screen to get into his floater game. A lot of putback kind of action, including a gigantic putback dunk from Javier Francis, right? All of those kind of things felt like Houston was kind of finding their rhythm, getting their feet back under them after a few days off. Remember, the grind of the Big 12 schedule this year with 20 games was you had 2 games a week, and they were very rarely more than a few days apart, right? And so Houston kind of getting their feet back under them today to ultimately play someone again on Saturday is pretty important, given, if you just took today completely off, like why even play that game? Then you go a week between games. That throws off a lot of what you've been doing all season. I feel like the other thing about this team that Houston just played, though, is that they got a lot of, I think, Matt Camp described it as positional size. And if you're looking for like things to translate into your next matchups, into your later matchups, right? SIUE, as far as heights, weights, get off the bus kind of stuff, was not a like small time opponent at all, right? They got 6'11s, they got 6'9s, they got 6'4 guards, right? The 6'7 wings that shoot from three. I mean, positionally, they looked the part in every way, and Houston certainly was not outmanned in that. A lot of people worry about Houston and the size. Like, Houston's a very long team, not a very tall team, and that's kind of like, could they falter with that? Clearly, that did not matter so much in this one. Brian chimes in with great opportunity to tune up first round. Next round be much tougher. Glad to see the bench getting playing time. Go Coogs. Great first round win and next up. And I think that's the mentality a lot of Cougar fans need to make sure they keep here, because like Houston went 5 minutes without a basket in the second half, but it was mostly reserves on the floor, right? And Houston, only scored a handful of points in the last 10 minutes, but only had a handful of buckets, I should say, in the last few minutes, 10 minutes. But again, it was mostly reserves on the floor. The starters in this one looked like the starters of a team on a mission would. I really thought that getting Javier involved in the first half was important too. Javier played just 15 minutes, actually, of the first rotation of big guys, I should say, Tugler, Roberts, and Javier. He played the least minutes. But I think that what you saw to him was he was able to use a lot of his offensive game he's been working on, the spin moves, the hooks, all that kind of stuff, to really effectively find baskets. 4 of 4 from the field, 5 of 6 from the foul line. That's something you want to have building with his confidence, right? Milos, again, getting back in the same kind of bag he did in the Big 12 championship game. Juwan Roberts, getting out there, moving around the ankle. He looked fine. I kind of thought he would. Again, my understanding was that if last weekend had been the NCAA tournament, he probably would have played on a bum ankle. Getting him a couple days rest and still winning the tournament was kind of a plus. And we had some coming into adulthood kind of moments with a Mercy Miller big block on the break, a chase down block from behind, kind of gets him on a national stage in a weird way that he might not have been otherwise. Mylik Wilson had a handful of great defensive plays. In the second half, it felt like Houston really focused on finding ways to kind of get guys intentionally involved. Terrance was that guy for a large stretch. He ended up going 4 of 8 from the field, had 10 points and 4 rebounds, a couple steals. And I think that what they're realizing is they're going to need a bench perimeter scorer, Terrance, Malik, somebody to kind of come in and alleviate some of that off of Cryer, Uzan, Sharp. Sharp had just 8 points. It wasn't his day. He also only played 25 minutes. He's typically a 35-minute kind of guy, and the offense wasn't flowing through him. We found Cryer a lot early, and then it wasn't his turn late because it was one of the starters' turn late, right? And so I think what you see out of this team is kind of a very focused first half. We're getting after it and showing who we are. We're reminding everyone of who we are. We're making a statement here. And then in the second half, it was a lot more of let's work on a couple of things. Let's work on running through Terrance. Let's work on running through. I get even at some point Cordell got involved. Cordelius Jefferson got involved. And so I think on the whole, this feels good. Now, going into Saturday's matchup, we play the winner of Georgia and Gonzaga. Both good programs, both good teams. I actually think that Gonzaga is probably the more difficult matchup in a weird way, but it's in the same way that I thought BYU would be a more difficult matchup than they were. And so I almost wonder if it's going to be okay the way if Houston brings their A game. A game to A game, Houston's fine with either one. But March Madness is madness for a reason, right? The chaos ensues. It's one game sample. Someone gets in foul trouble. Someone's getting hot for the other team, whatever, right? So on the whole, we'll see what happens. I got some things in the works right now to get you some content for Friday based on how that matchup goes. So we're looking to talk to some people to get ready for that one Friday based on whatever happens later this afternoon. But we'll be hitting things on socials and stuff like that as well. So make sure you follow Locked On Coogs, Painter 512, Painter Sports on Instagram, all those kind of things wherever you are, because we're putting out stuff constantly and frequently. Again, like the crispness of the sets and the first half and the intention and like the intensity in a game that you probably didn't have to get up for. Again, there were all kinds of teams that are not going to be able to say they did that across the board today. And Houston, again, made a statement and looked like a Power 4 team looking to make a run to cut down nets in April. And that's important. We'll be breaking more down later, but Locked On Coogs. Oh, we got one more comment here I want to make sure we read because it's talking about JoJo. Great to see the bench guys getting valuable tournaments as well as Terrance and JoJo. JoJo getting valuable. You can remember this is JoJo and Terrance. This is kind of their first real run in the rotation, healthy on a tournament team. Valuable moment for them too. Breaking more down soon. I got to go watch some Georgia and Gonzaga, and then we'll be back to you tomorrow. It might be a little bit later in the morning because if it's Gonzaga, we got to talk to Andy, and Andy's got a different schedule with the Locked On Bracket Breakdown, which reminds me,
the NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.